In this video, I'm going to talk about how to build on your idea with 3 different ways: brainstorming, brainwriting, and the Socratic method, which is super cool and super geeky because I like philosophy, so I'm really happy to talk about that. Now, all of these are going to kind of require 2 skills: non-judgment and some thick skin, because some judgment does happen sometimes. It's a human process. And also, some people might misinterpret at sometimes some things said, because not everybody knows how to say things in constructive ways and reject things constructively. So a little bit of patience and thick skin will actually help the process along, both on your part and on the part of your partners. And if you're dealing with partners who you think have thin skin, then just be extra careful. So first, I'll go over how to brainstorm, because that's the most common thing people do, and then I'll get into the other 2 things. First is you get people in a room and you just throw out ideas and write them down. You don't reject any ideas. You want to build a wide range of ideas so that later you will get rid of some of them. But for now, you want to keep all your ideas so that they might spurn other ideas and they might give birth to ideas on top of them. So in the beginning, you keep it all. Then once you're done, you categorize the ideas so they're easily to think about, and you sort of put category 1, category 2, category 3. After that, some of the impossible ones you do end up ultimately taking out if it hasn't given birth to any new ideas on top of it, or if it really just seems like this is a dead end. You take the dead end ones out. And the ones you keep are the ones that you sort of you start analyzing and synthesizing over the ones that you decided, these make sense. And those are the ones you sort of, you start reasoning, does it work, does it not work? Now, there's different quirks in this process. At different times, people might ask qualifying questions just to understand, but sometimes they might feel judgmental, and people and some people, it's a conversational process between multiple people, and some people might take over the conversation. Obviously, people who are more outgoing control the room, and it might drown out other people's voices. So for that reason, there is this idea of brainwriting. Brainwriting has a specific methodology to it. I'm not going to go into the entire methodology. The only thing I'm going to say is that it's essentially you write down ideas on a piece of paper, and you give your piece of paper to the next person, and they build on your ideas. And that way, people who are naturally quiet, they don't get their ideas drowned out. They're equally heard. They have an equal voice as people who are loud. And you pass the piece of paper, then you pass the same piece of paper that has yours and the next person's to the next person and the next person, and you sort of do it with writing. So it's a pretty quiet process, but eventually you come up with a lot of ideas on paper that are built on top of other people's ideas, and then you can discuss them later. Now, I also want to talk about an interesting thing when you only have 2 people, you and another person, which is actually the most common case. And that's going to be the Socratic method. And the Socratic method, you're not going to hear about this in any business school, I don't think. It's just something that I always reference because I'm a geek of philosophy. I like it, and I think it has a place here. So the Socratic method is basically a dialogue. And according to Socrates, it was like the best way to learn is to have a dialogue, and you ask and you just build on top of each other's arguments until you realize, this is a dead end, or you're onto something. The problem with it is that it's very rejectionary, right? You're trying to cut down, you're trying to disprove the other person's ideas at times, or build on top of them, and the other person might take offense. They might not realize you're doing this Socratic method thing, and you in fact get mad or take offense. So you can only really do it with people to whom you explain the process, that it's really just a dialogue by which it's not about whose ideas are better. It's about you both building towards a stronger argument. So an example is in the actual Socratic dialogues. One example, Socrates asks, what is virtue? And his counterpart says, courage is virtue. And Socrates says, well, no, not exactly, because courage is only an example of virtue, but what is the essence of virtue really? And obviously, you'd be talking about different topics. You'd be talking about business. They're, 2,500 years ago, they were talking about virtue. The subject matters change, but the style, it's basically dialogue. And when Socrates cut the guy down, he said, well, it's just an example. What is the real example? What is virtue really? That actually forced the dialogue counterpart to think harder and longer to give a better answer. So by cutting down into answers that are not great, you actually keep on going with it, and as you keep sticking with it, you'll get to better answers because you will take out the worst answers. So I like the Socratic method. If you don't like it, then just stick with brainstorming and brain writing. So these are the ways that you can use other people to improve your ideas.